Don't miss our first look at the new Death Guard Codex.
Spiky bits.
What's up, Hobby Maniacs? Rob Baer with you again today. Finally checking out the brand new Death Guard Codex. Now this thing is chock full of new rules, goodness, and pictures of units that are on the horizon. No idea when they're actually coming out. I imagine, October being Halloween, that would be a great time to drop some of these. We know kind of what's on the way, but with them sneaking in Death Shroud, I guess, into this week's lineup, well, I guess they could just kind of splash them in anytime they want, to be quite honest. Now, overall, the book, I believe, is $40 US. It also has about 103 pages, which is kind of light as far as codexes go, I suppose. We used to see like 110, 120 just for normal codex books there for a while. But, I mean, it doesn't feel like it's lacking in content. There's plenty of new rules. All of the summaries and everything in the back. Great background and stories. There's timelines in here of all the famous Death Guard battles. You got the bestiary section, which is, breakdowns on all the new units, who they are, what they did, the fluff on them, of course. Then gets into the rules, the war gear lists, etc., all the specifics on traits, stratagems, contagion, discipline, points, values, etc. We won't get into a super lot of that on this video, just because I save a lot of that for the tips and tactics breakdown, where we kind of go over all the stratagems, what it means, etc., kind of like some combos we might see. I mean, I think for the most part, a lot of people are seeing the same type of combos. Overall, Games Workshop definitely is like, hey, there's a lot of mortal wounds to be given out here, which is very easy to pick up on, of course. But I think the key to Nurgle has always been resiliency, and for the first time in a long time, they actually have it in spades. So here's a kind of a breakdown on Mortarion's actual Plague planet itself. Talking about the Plague fleets, maybe a little teaser there, because we are, fingers crossed, hoping that Battlefleet Gothic makes a return through Specialist Games here soon. How the Legion is organized, all sorts of profile. New graphics abound in here. There is a ton of new stuff. Like, if you're a fan of these guys, like Death Guard and Nurgle have never had more attention before than in this book right here. And then it gets into each and every little unit, telling stories and things and background and new lore on some of the stuff that we're just starting to see for the first time, which is very cool, of course. Let's see, what else is in here? Well, we get to the painted miniature section, and there's going to be a lot of stuff that definitely looks better in the book than maybe what the pictures we were seeing. Obviously, Mortarion looks fantastic in this color scheme right here. Blightlord Terminators, they're going to have all sorts of weapon options. The Tallyman, the Plague Surgeon, I think we're going to see a lot of Plague Surgeons. There's the Death Shroud, the 3 different ones, of course. Typhus looking awesome, can't wait for him to come out. And then, of course, you can see these multi-part kit Plague Marines right here. Some of them are the exclusives, but some of them we haven't even seen yet, so I would assume that we'll see a multi-part Death Guard box coming out in the near future. It might be kind of on par with what we saw with the Intercessors at 60, and then a Combat Squad version at 35 in the near future, and some more Blight Lords there, existing Death Guard, or existing Hellbrute multi-part kit, and existing Demon Prince kit with a Blight Drone head right there. And then it gets into, of course, the new variants. For the Foetid Bloat drones right here, you've got the Heavy Blight Launcher and the Flesh Mower. Flesh Mower looks fantastic rules-wise. Can't wait to talk about that in our Tips and Tactics breakdown. Here you can see the Plague Mortar and the little Blight Hauler thingy-mabobber. Duder. And there's the layout on the army itself. Now, once we get into the back here, and you can tell the graphics are absolutely stunning. Like, this green is really popping off the page almost. Pretty crazy looking. You've got the intro right here is going to tell you about Demonic Ritual, because they did include demons in this book. So if you want to take a true Death Guard detachment, you wouldn't be able to include them because they don't have the Death Guard or Heretic Astartes keyword, of course, but you could definitely summon them in, and that would get around that using reserve points, right? Disgusting Resilient, great ability on a 5-up. We've seen that in the past. Death of the False Emperor, them 6s be popping off. Plague Weapons, reroll 1s, but there is, a Warlord trait that everybody within 7 just gets to straight up reroll, so that'll give you for your 2s and 3s that you may need. And then it gets into the unit sections themselves. Again, we're going to break these down as best we can in our tips and tactics video, kind of telling you what might have changed, what's in here. You can definitely tell there's a Demon Prince of Nurgle now in here, specifically with the Heretic Astartes Death Guard. This is different from the one that's going to be in the index for Chaos Demons. This one will benefit from the reroll 1s for the Disgusting Resilient because he has the appropriate keywords from the little Plague Surgeon guy right here. So that's probably another obvious combo to a lot of people. You put enough of these guys in there at the Elite slot that anybody within 3 inches, you're going to be able to reroll any Disgusting Resilient rolls of 1. So once you start making those rolls that normally were a 5-6, now a 5-6 with a reroll 1, which mathematically can't carry the fractions on a dice roll, but for the most part, it's around the 4-up. I think you can say that with confidence. Then you're going to start really seeing that resiliency kind of pay off. Now, unfortunately, they don't confer over to the demons like the Plague Bears that are in here because that would be really good. But they will confer to Poxwalkers, which are not as good as Plague Bears, but worth it in a pinch if that's kind of your thing, that making that wave of dudes just running up the field here. And you can see there's lots of options in here. 33 Army Datasheets. You're going to have 6 Warlord traits, 14 unique stratagems. 8 of them are existing and ported over just with like the Death Guard flair from the Chaos book. So technically you got 6 real new ones. Relics of Decay, there's going to be 6 of those. And of course the Contagion Psychic Discipline. But lots and lots of unit entries in here. Here you can see that you're going to have the Plague Bearers and the Nurglings. They are just Nurgle Demons, and of course Nurgle Demons over here. Poxwalkers, however, are going to fit in just fine into your Death Guard army along with Cultists. Some of the new units right there. Now skip to the back of the book, talk about some of the rules that are new to this edition of the Death Guard. So first off, of course, you're going to have the ability for all your infantry and Hellbrute units. There are no options for bikes in here. This is kind of like chapter traits, but not really because, like I said, no options for bikes in here. To be able to advance and fire assault weapons and heavy weapons with no penalty, and also get to fire them twice. Can fire twice with rapid fire weapons at a range of 18 instead of only being able to fire twice with them up to half of the weapon's maximum range. So instead of 12, you're popping them off double at 18 right there. And they have the Plague Host ability. Of course, all troops in a Death Guard detachment that is Battleforged are going to be able to score objectives over models that aren't. And then here's the Warlord traits. We've seen this in the past. There's 2 specific ones for Mortarion and Typhus. Arch Contaminator and Living Plague. Arch Contaminator is the aura bubble for popping off plague weapon rerolls. There's some other good ones right here, but I feel like most people are probably going to be looking at taking one of those 2 named characters. However, I would definitely recommend the one that lets you get +1 to disgustingly, or add 1 to any disgustingly resilient if you are rolling for a mortal wound. So now you're going to get down to a 3-up if you're within range of the Plague Surgeon on mortal wounds. Oof. Unless the wound you're rolling for is a mortal wound. Excuse me, I read that wrong. So it'd be 3 for everything but a mortal wound. A mortal wound would just get the normal bonus from the Plague Surgeon. So that'd be on a 4-up, where a 3-up for everything else. So having a normal save and a 3-up inherently feel no pain, bubble, buffer, save, whatever you want to call it, against just wounds in general, or damage, I guess. Ridiculous. Like, the math on that is exponentially good. Holy cow. Unfortunately, it only confers to your Warlord, so he is going to be a Billy Badass, or at least you should make him one. Stratagem-wise, like I said, 14. 8 of them are existing, just kind of Death Guard-y word-wise to the new book. 6 of them are brand spanking new, so you can see things like Chaos Familiar of Nurgle is going to let you swap out your Contagion Discipline instead of your Heretic Discipline, right? Stuff like the gifts are going to be just for this book here, where you can get the extra gifts if you pay the command points, so on and so forth. Things are specifically going to be worded. We'll talk more about this on another video, of course. But I think that was like the big stuff that we're kind of worried about the wording on. But you can tell that it definitely is geared towards the Death Guard. Relics wise, there's 6 of them. You can see them right here. There's some good ones, there's some bad ones. There always is. Kind of got to figure out if the juice is worth the squeeze on spending the command points to get extra. And then, of course, the Contagion Discipline. All of these rules, of course, have been already previewed ad nauseum, at least over the past week on the internet. But if you have not seen them or have not been exposed to them, of course, whether it's on Warhammer community site or, of course, all the stuff that we've collated and posted up earlier in the week, well, here they are right here for you to check out. We'll definitely be talking more about these because there's going to be so many overlapping things that you can do with the ability, stuff like the Blades of Putrefaction, just being able to just pop off mortal wounds left and right. Another one of my favorites, of course, and we saw this in the preview, was the Cloud of Flies, just because you're going to be able to protect some key units, at least with the infantry keyword right there, for sure. So blowing up your vehicles too, if you take them for 1 command point, could spell the difference between life and death on a line. That definitely seems like a good idea to look out for, and there's points values and things like that. And that's pretty much the whole book. Like I said, it's short and sweet, but it definitely is not without flavor, for sure. Now, a couple other things that are coming out this week, accessory-wise too. We have the data card pack for $15, and the dice that everybody seemed to be losing their shit over. I could not believe all the people love these things. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with loving some dice, especially, you know, the way they made these. But man, it just seemed like the internet was literally smitten with these things. So let's give you our first impressions of these. Now, when I looked at the dice initially, and I think these are $20 US. When I looked at the dice initially, I thought like, the little kind of, what is this, little slime effect was like kind of brushed on to the dice, but you can tell it's just on the outside of the plastic here, right? So that's just for presentation, of course. But once you open it up, and you can tell that there's like some 3-dimensional pips and stuff in there, right? But once you open these bad boys up and start looking at them, then you kind of start to realize what exactly is going on here. And this is something we hadn't seen before from Games Workshop, right? This is kind of like a new product type deal. So this material in here is actually it's squishy. Like there's a lot of squish in here, right? And then if you press all the way down into it, it's basically like a squishy inside that just is framed by this plastic. This is plastic. It almost feels like you're holding a Lego. Like when you pick these up and you start shaking them, it almost feels like you're holding Legos. They're a little hollow, but they're pretty cool. I mean, you can easily tell, hey, that's a 5, hey, that's a 4, hey, that's a 1, hey, that's a 2, right? But when you roll them, it definitely feels like you're kind of throwing Legos. Trust me, I put enough Lego kits together in my time to know what that feels like. I imagine they wouldn't be as rough to step on unless you hit a corner in the middle of the night. But you can tell just probably by the noise that's coming through the microphone, like they definitely feel a little hollow, I guess, because that squishiness is inside. It's not a traditional die is what I guess I'm trying to say here. They're lighter. They almost feel like sprue and or Legos. They literally feel, if I wasn't looking at this and I just like picked it up and it was in the shape of a Lego, like a rectangle Lego, if I just picked it up, my eyes closed and had no idea what was in my hand, I would say, yeah, this is obviously a Lego. But they're still pretty cool. Like, I'm not sure. Here, let's try rolling them real quick, see if they bounce any more than normal. They don't really bounce any more than normal on a mat, to be quite honest. Like, I don't see any downside to their design or anything like that. I think they're pretty cool, and it's a pretty neat idea. I'm sure you could even paint these being plastic and just hit them with a matte coat. That would actually be kind of a cool idea, and give it a wash and maybe make it all disease looking and then matte coat it up. You might have to matte coat it more than once because we all know dice are gonna kind of a high traffic area, so to speak. But that'd be a pretty neat little hobby project right there. And then as far as the Death Guard data cards go, very similar to what we've seen in the past. There isn't as many stratagems, like I said. There's 14 of them. They're going to have the psychic powers in the back that gives us contagion. By the way, all of the Nurgle sorcerers, I don't know if I said it, only have access to the gifts of contagion. They do not have the normal cast Space Marine psychic powers. And then tactical objectives and such, including the extra specific Nurgle specific ones in the rulebook one. So everything you need for keeping track of your stratagems and keeping track of your psychic powers are right here, including Smite and the other stratagems that, you know, the reroll dice and the morale checks and all the things like that. So pretty neat offerings this week. We know the Death Shroud are coming out next week for $60, and all of the AdMech stuff as well are on the way. Going to be interesting to see what the AdMech dice are all about. This is probably the neatest, most forwardist thinking, innovative, we'll go with innovative dice set we've seen from Games Workshop thus far in their product cycle, I suppose, for the most part. So that's pretty much it for this one. I hope you enjoyed my first look of the new Death Guard Codex, along with the 2 accessory product offerings this week as well. So if you like our video features here on this channel, make sure you subscribe to it and turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on our videos, and head on over to thelongwar.net. That's the home of the Battle Reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and downloadable 8th edition Army lists. Become a veteran of the Long War today.